Well, hello there, darlings. Pull your chairs closer to the fire, won't you? The night is long and full of shadows, perfect for sharing a few tales that cling to the soul like a spider's web. We're not talking about your average bumps in the night. No, tonight we journey into the heart of darkness, into grand, imposing mansions where the walls have seen more than they let on. These are places built on foundations of wealth, power, and secrets that refuse to stay buried. The very air in these homes is heavy, thick with the echoes of lives cut short and sorrows that never faded. So dim the lights and listen closely. You might just hear a whisper on the wind, a ghostly sigh from a past that is never truly gone. Tonight's stories are not just make-believe, they are rooted in truth, in real places you can still visit, if you dare. These mansions stand as monuments to tragedy, their opulent halls and sprawling grounds now home to restless spirits and chilling mysteries. We will walk through a southern estate where a poisoned cake led to an eternity of vengeance. We will get lost in the dizzying corridors of a house built to confuse the dead. And finally, we will feel the cold despair of a modern mansion stained by a mob hit. Each story is a fragment of a larger, darker puzzle, a glimpse into a world where the veil between the living and the dead is terrifyingly thin. These are not just ghost stories, they are warnings. Our first stop is a place of haunting beauty in St. Francisville, Louisiana. The Myrtles Plantation, with its sweeping verandas, ancient, moss-draped oaks, looks like something out of a romantic novel. But don't let its charm fool you, darlings. This place is widely considered one of the most haunted homes in America. Built in 1796, the mansion has a long and bloody history, but one story in particular has chilled visitors to the bone for over a century. It's the story of a poisoned birthday cake, a vengeful spirit named Chloe, and a mirror that holds more than just your reflection. They say if you stare into it long enough, you might see something staring back. The legend centers on a woman named Chloe, an enslaved person owned by Clark and Sarah Woodruff. The story goes that Clark Woodruff was having an affair with Chloe, and when he grew tired of her, she began eavesdropping on the family's private conversations. She was terrified of being sent away from the main house. One day, she was caught. As punishment, Clark had one of her ears cut off. From then on, she wore a green turban to hide the scar. Desperate to win back the family's favor, Chloe devised a plan. She would bake a birthday cake for one of the daughters and lace it with a small amount of poison from oleander leaves. She intended it to make the family sick so she could nurse them back to health. But Chloe, not being a master of poisons, misjudged the dose. The birthday cake, meant to be her salvation, became a vessel of death. Sarah Woodruff and 2 of her 3 children ate the poisoned cake and died in agony. The other enslaved people, fearing the wrath of their master and suspecting Chloe was responsible, took matters into their own hands. They dragged Chloe from her room and hanged her from one of the large oak trees on the property. Her body was then weighed down with rocks and thrown into the nearby Mississippi River. A tragic end to a tragic life, but for Chloe, death was not the end. It was only the beginning of her eternal haunting. Her spirit is said to remain at the plantation, forever bound to the place of her suffering. She is most often seen wearing her signature green turban, a ghostly figure wandering the veranda, or appearing at the foot of guests' beds in the middle of the night. But her most terrifying manifestation is connected to an antique mirror that hangs in the grand foyer. The mirror was placed in the house around the time of the poisonings. According to custom, mirrors were covered after a death to prevent the spirits of the deceased from getting trapped inside. This mirror, however, was overlooked. It is believed that the spirits of Sarah Woodruff and her children are trapped within its silvered glass. The mirror is the focal point of the haunting. It's a large, ornate piece, but its surface is dark and clouded with age. Strange smudges and imperfections mar the glass. Some of these marks uncannily resemble handprints of a child's size. Staff and visitors have cleaned the mirror countless times, only for the mysterious prints to reappear moments later. It's as if unseen hands are pressed against the glass from the inside, trying to get out. Some people who have taken photos of the mirror have been horrified to find the faint, spectral image of a woman in a turban reflected behind them, a figure that wasn't there when the picture was taken. Imagine staying the night at the Myrtles. You're assigned a room, and you try to settle in, but the house creaks and groans around you with an unnatural rhythm. You decide to take a walk through the dimly lit halls, and you find yourself standing before that very mirror. You gaze into its dark surface, seeing your own nervous reflection, but then you notice something else. Behind you, in the reflection, a shadowy form takes shape. It's a woman, her head wrapped in a green turban, her face a mask of sorrow and anger. You whip around, your heart pounding in your chest, but there's no one there. The hallway is empty. You look back at the mirror and she's gone. This experience has been reported by dozens of guests. They speak of a profound sense of sadness and despair that washes over them when Chloe appears. She never speaks, never makes a sound. Now, let's travel west to San Jose, California, to a mansion that wasn't just haunted. It was built for the haunted. I'm talking about the Winchester Mystery House, a sprawling, chaotic architectural oddity. This is not your typical haunted house. This is a house born from fear, grief, and a desperate attempt to outsmart the spirit world. Its story begins with Sarah Winchester. After the sudden deaths of her infant daughter and her husband William, Sarah was left a grief-stricken widow with an immense fortune. Consumed by sorrow, Sarah sought the help of a spiritual medium in Boston. The medium told her something that would change the course of her life forever. She claimed to be channeling the spirit of Sarah's late husband. The spirits of all the people killed by the Winchester rifle were angry and seeking revenge. The medium told Sarah that to appease these vengeful ghosts, she must move west and build a great house for them. But there was a catch. She could never, ever stop building. The moment the construction ceased, she would die. Taking the medium's warning to heart, Sarah packed her bags and moved to California in 1886. She purchased an unfinished 8-room farmhouse and began what would become one of the longest and strangest construction projects in history. For 38 years, from 1886 until her death in 1922, construction on the mansion never stopped. Carpenters worked in shifts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The constant, unending sound of hammers and saws filled the air, a chaotic symphony dedicated to keeping the spirits at bay. Sarah had no master plan, no blueprints. She would often hold seances in a special room to receive building instructions from the spirits themselves. The result is a sprawling 160-room labyrinth designed to confuse anyone, living or dead. There are staircases that lead directly into the ceiling, doors that open onto blank walls, and doors that open onto a sheer drop to the ground below, and windows that look into other rooms. Hallways twist and turn into dead ends, and tiny, cramped passages snake through the house. There's even a cabinet that opens into a maze of 30 other rooms. The number 13 is a recurring motif throughout the house. There are 13 bathrooms, windows with 13 panes of glass, and stairways with 13 steps. It was all part of Sarah's desperate plan to disorient the malevolent spirits she believed were hunting her. Life inside the Winchester house was as strange as its architecture. She slept in a different bedroom every night, a tactic she believed would make it harder for the spirits to find her. She would wander the confusing maze of her own home, using a secret network of passages to move about unseen. Her staff would often be startled by her sudden silent appearances. For our final tale, we're heading to the forgotten shores of Staten Island, New York, to a place where Victorian grandeur meets modern horror. The Kreischer Mansion stands on a hill overlooking the water, a Gothic relic of a bygone era. It was one of 2 identical mansions built in 1885 by a successful brick manufacturer named Balthazar Kreischer for his 2 sons, Charles and Edward. But while the family fortune was built on solid brick, their lives were built on a foundation of tragedy and despair. Today, only one of the 2 mansions remains, a silent, brooding testament to the darkness that consumed the Kreischer family. The family's troubles began with a fire at their brick factory. Shortly after, Balthazar Kreischer himself died, leaving his sons to manage the crumbling empire. The pressure was immense. Edward, who lived in the mansion that still stands today, became overwhelmed by depression. One day in 1894, he walked into a local tavern, had a drink, and then returned to his magnificent home. He went to his room, took out a pistol, and shot himself in the head. His suicide cast a long, dark shadow over the mansion, a stain of sorrow that many believe never truly left. But the mansion's darkest chapter was yet to come, a modern horror that would eclipse even its own tragic past. In 2005, the mansion was under the care of a man named Joseph Joe Black Young. He was hired by the owner to act as a caretaker, but Joe Black had a secret. He was also an enforcer for the Bonanno crime family. He was ordered to carry out a hit on a rival associate named Robert McKelvey. On April 5, 2005, Joe Black lured McKelvey to the desolate mansion. There, in the shadow of its haunted history, he and his accomplices brutally murdered him. the modern crime at the Kreischer mansion seemed to awaken something new and more sinister within its walls. The sorrowful ghosts of the past were now joined by a far more violent and terrifying energy. After the murder, paranormal investigators and visitors reported a dramatic shift in the house's atmosphere. People reported being pushed by unseen forces, hearing guttural growls from empty rooms, and feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and menace, particularly in the basement near the furnace where Robert McKelvey's life came to its horrific end. The mansion's story is a chilling reminder that evil is not confined to the distant past. It's as if the house itself is a magnet for tragedy, each new horror compounding the last, creating a complex and terrifying haunting. They are beautiful, imposing, and utterly haunted. So the next time you pass an old, imposing house with its darkened windows and silent facade, pause for a moment. The spirits of these mansions are always there, waiting. They watch from the windows as the world moves on, forever bound to the place where their stories ended. And maybe, just maybe, they're hoping you'll come inside and listen. After all, a good horror story is so much better when it's true, isn't it? Sleep tight, darlings.